Hey guys, this is SquiddyVon, and welcome to .GameTV. I know it's been a while since my last video, but the only news for what felt like forever concerning Bethesda's upcoming title Starfield was that the game would be delayed until sometime in 2023. But that all changed last week when Todd Howard from Bethesda took the stage at Microsoft's June Xbox showcase, and we fans all got a first glimpse of what we've been waiting for literally years at this point. Actual gameplay footage of Starfield. And not only did Bethesda deliver on that, but we also got an avalanche of information about the game's ridiculously large scope, which has the social media hype and criticism battle in full swing. In this video, I wanted to give you a full breakdown, frame by frame, of everything Bethesda showed us, as well as my initial reaction and opinions on what we can expect when the game releases. Also, if you want to see more Starfield content in the future, make sure you subscribe to the channel, as I'll also be doing in-depth videos about the gunplay, how Creation Engine 2 looks, character creation, spaceflight, and many other features shown in the showcase. Now, before I start, if you haven't watched this new gameplay trailer for yourself, I'll have a link in the description to the official Bethesda video. I definitely suggest giving it a full watch. The footage throughout the presentation jumps around a little bit, so I'm going to organize this breakdown into 8 sections. Full gameplay on Crete, constellation and main storyline, cities and factions, character creation, outpost and spaceship building, spaceflight, Starfield universe, and various environments and aliens. There's a lot to cover, so buckle up, this might take a while. So Todd introduces us to Crete, a moon of the planet Ansalon. I've gotta say, I was really excited to finally get a first look at Creation Engine 2, and I think for the most part, everything is looking at least as good as I expected, and probably even a little better. Unfortunately, the gameplay was only shot at 30 frames per second, so things will look better than they do in the video. Lighting in particular looks amazing, and distant terrain appears really good. This is another time I'll remind you to watch the entire video yourself, because I also think the sound quality is really good. Hearing the way the ship punches through the atmosphere is top-notch, and throughout the entirety of the trailer, the music is absolutely incredible, which has always been a staple of Bethesda games, and Inan Zur, who also composed the soundtrack for Fallout 4, looks to have delivered some of his finest. Now, back to Crete. The moon itself looks very barren, with very little vegetation. We don't have a perfect idea of landing mechanics yet in the game, but Todd Howard did confirm that seamless flight between space and a world's surface will not be in Starfield, so this may be the kind of landing cutscene we can expect, but it also could be handcrafted for the trailer. We're in the year 2330, which is 20 years after the war between the United Colonies and Freestar Collective, two of the game's main factions. The ship itself looks a little beaten, but overall very realistic and not too sleek. The smoke textures here also look very low resolution, and I hope they improve before the final release of the game. We then get our first-person look at the gameplay, as our landed ship now opens to Crete with Vasco leading the way. If you want some more backstory on Vasco, I'll link my Vasco video here, which goes into much more depth, but he's our robot NPC pal that will be helping us on our journey, and throughout the trailer, he gives the player information about what is going on. We also get our first look at the heads-up display, with an O2 CO2 meter at the bottom left, as well as some info on the day and night cycle of Crete, and also a nav marker leading us to our objective. On the right, we have our health bar and our equipped weapon, in this case a semi-auto Eon pistol. You can also see your ammo count, both the current clip and total ammo, as well as grenade typing count. I'm someone who hates to scavenge for ammo, so I'm glad they have at least decent ammo accounts here in the trailer. As we step out onto Crete, our player pulls out this very No Man's Sky style scanner called the Cutter, which shows us information about the world objects we aim it at. We also see using the cutter brings up an additional overlay showing input options for scan, outpost, photo mode, toggle guide, and back. Using the cutter also changed the heads-up display in the bottom left to show temperature, oxygen, and gravity. Showing the oxygen percentage definitely implies that oxygen management is going to be easier on some worlds and harder on others based on oxygen percentage in the air. For reference, the Earth's is around 21%. I also hope that any world's gravity will affect the actual in-world physics, affecting things like how high you jump and how fast you fall. As the character moves toward the objective, we get another glimpse of more alien life. You can see the HUD elements with a leveling system and health bar, along with the creature's name. I like that not everything seems to attack you right away, but may be based on proximity or if you attack first. Next, the player uses the cutter to extract a resource, again almost exactly like you would in No Man's Sky. I also noticed that the scan range from the previous scan had greatly increased. I'm not exactly sure why, but it does look like based on the environment that you're in, your scanning range will be different. Our player finally gets down closer to the objective and the Crete research lab location is discovered. It also looks like we get experience points for doing so XP will be a mechanic in the game. The player again uses the cutter to identify the spacecraft next to the research lab, which is a Crimson Fleet Ghost. The Crimson Fleet is another game faction known for being pirates, so our player equips the Grendel, a submachine gun that looks similar to the P90, and moves toward the facility. I wanted to replay this series a few times to point out another instance of vastly improved lighting. You can see the interior is incredibly dark because it is so bright outside, and then once inside, things finally become clear and bright again. Atmospheric visuals look solid as our player moves throughout the facility, and Bethesda's attention to detail is on display here, with each room being thoroughly filled out, and things to look at and interact with. Our player then enters the lab itself, and we have two Crimson Fleet pirates waiting. You can see aiming at the enemy identifies them as a pirate with a 2 next to them, indicating what level they are. They also appear on the heads-up display now with red ticks, and the heads-up display actually notifies us that we were spotted. Now, the combat looks okay. Unfortunately, the person performing the gameplay wasn't really trying to be effective and use good first-person shooting mechanics, as they hipfire pretty much everything. I will say the recoil doesn't look like much, and time to kill is pretty average for this type of game. I do hope there isn't too much bullet sponge in the game, but we also just don't have a good idea of weapon power and balance yet, so I'll try to reserve some judgment on the gunplay. As you defeat an enemy, you'll also see the game allows real-time looting with the ability to take and transfer items. The animations definitely look improved from previous Bethesda games, but as the internet and many other content creators have pointed out, there is still a touch of jank that has always accompanied first-person shooter mechanics in Bethesda gameplay. That said, it does look perfectly serviceable, and this game isn't trying to be PUBG or Battlefield. I will say things like this subtle slide animation give me hope, but I'd say don't get your hopes up if you're expecting the smoothness of movement and combat offered by leading FPS titles. The scene also shows the player switching weapons by using a favorites menu, which slows down time when activated, a mechanic I really like to preserve some immersion and give maximum flexibility. As the player proceeds, he then shows off the game's lockpicking mechanism, which looks like a nice little puzzle of the type we expected, by fitting small digital pegs through small slots in a particular orientation. To unlock, the player uses digipicks, which does appear to be a finite resource you'll need to unlock. There will also be different security levels, which will increase the difficulty of the lock puzzle. The whiteboard behind the case we opened also gives some hints as to what is going on at the research lab. Experimental analysis of selected clone cells, along with this very creepy dead space looking creature, tells us some pretty dark science was going on here. As we exit the building, you'll see a notification of the heads-up display saying mission updated. I like the subtlety here without any big animations or banners taking over your screen. We see a little more gunplay, this time shooting the Equinox. Gunplay again looks a little flat, but the animations following shooting an enemy's jetpack is cool, with the enemy exploding upward. Reinforcements arrive, and our character jumps and follows up with a mid-air boost from a jetpack, which shows on our HUD as boost. Just a couple of boosts do seem to deplete it, so definitely has a limited range, but just having the extra boost will have a huge impact on mobility. The combat closes with our character using the assault rifle looking Maelstrom before Todd Howard takes us to the next section of the showcase. All in all, a very good first impression of gameplay. This game has a ton of potential. Also keep in mind the game won't release for almost another year, so things really can improve. So that wraps up the initial game footage of the mission to Crete. I'll be back again soon with part 2 covering Constellation and the main storyline. I'd love to know what you guys thought of this gameplay and what your expectations are for Starfield when it releases. Let me know in the comments your thoughts and if there are topics you'd like me to cover in future videos. That's all for now, guys. I'll be back again soon with another Starfield video. Stay tuned. This is SquiddyBon, and this is HUD GameTV.